Hello and welcome to live post-match reaction to Wales versus England. And I see we already have a thumb down on the video. And I'm not sure if that's just because it's English people talking about a Wales victory or whether that's an English fan who's not happy with the result, but we'll see. Anyway, welcome. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and joining me this evening to go through the aftermath of the 21-13 victory by Wales is Russ from the Maul Over podcast. How you doing, sir?
Good evening, Paul. How you doing, mate?
Where's the wine? We normally have a glass of red wine to.
Oh, there's where it is. It's all gone. I can't. I've not been able to stop myself drinking it through the last sort of 10 minutes of that.
I was on the Milos because hey, it's still only 7 a.m. in the morning over here in New Zealand. But one of the points that one of the commentators mentioned was that in the last 5 games, England have scored within the first 3 minutes. That wasn't to happen today. I thought it was a bit of a tough decision early on for a high tackle that gave Daly a long shot at goal. And by the end of this game, we had 3 penalties by Wales, all of which were kicked, or England tried to kick a goal. I mean, that's an amazing stat.
Yeah, it was the kicks that Wales had were pretty central, were in decent positions, especially the penalties. Daly's kick was speculative at best. I think a bit of a shot to nothing. And sometimes England don't rely necessarily on Daly's boot. It just becomes a bit of a weapon when he comes off. And what's the worst that can happen at 22, and you get the ball back anyway. So
yeah, exactly. I was a bit surprised by one of England's tactics, or what seemed to be a tactic early on, because we heard the referee, especially in that first half, say back off White an awful lot during that first half, and both Daly and Nowell. And if it's when it's 2 players, it's clearly a tactic rather than a player error. We're both trying to knock the ball back from box kicks, and also from both attacking box kicks and defensive box kicks. Clearly trying to get it away from where that initial contest for the ball would be.
Trouble is, it becomes a bit of a lottery then, doesn't it? If you're knocking it back, you're going to have lazy runners. You're going to have the big boys still making their way back. So if you're going to try and tap it back, it brings everybody on side, doesn't it? If you're tapping it back, you've got I don't know. If you're not going to try and catch it, tapping it back's the next best thing. But for me, you've always got to you've got to try and get yourself in a position to catch it first and foremost.
Yeah, I agree. I'd much rather see the players claiming the ball rather than tapping it back like that. So that to me, I thought was perhaps trying to overthink a situation to come up with a solution. I'd much rather just see you compete and claim it.
I do think though the standard of box kicking from both Davis and Youngs was pretty poor for the majority of the game. They were either too long, so they were uncontestable, or too short, so that it just became a little bit of a free for all anyway, because there were just so many people in that congested area. I just thought the execution from both of the 9s on the box kicking wasn't anywhere near where it should have been.
Yeah, no, and you say there were a lot of them that were just an awful lot of bodies around where the ball was coming down, and it was just potluck as to who was going to be the actual person underneath it to be able to pick it up. In that first half, I thought England were trying to play a territory game, whereas Wales were much happier to put it through their hands and try and play with that ball. I know we discussed just before we came on air the Anscombe bigger thing, but that's why I think Anscombe was picked, was to try and play a bit more with ball in hand rather than trying to kick the ball, or rather than playing a kicking territory game. So your comment that most of the points were scored once Bigger came on, you don't think that really worked for Wales today?
Oh, it absolutely worked, because when Bigger came on, they took control of the game. I just think that for me, and this is a personal opinion, Biggar is a much better 10 than Gareth Anscombe. Just as an actual 10, the what he offers in defence, what he offers, as far as his kicking ability, what he offers, in distribution. He might not be a bit of a live wire like Anscombe is, but I think his all round gamesmanship, if that's the right word to use in this situation, I think is much better than Anscombe. And I think Anscombe is an excellent player, don't get me wrong, but I think if you ask me to pick a 10 for Wales, regardless of the situation, I'm going to pick Dan Biggar.
Cool. A couple of comments here. Commiserations, gentlemen. Well, yes, we're both English fans. Credit to Wales' tactical masterclass. They shipped the ball out wide and accurately to nullify the Rush defence, and their aerial kicking chase was first class. I thought in that first
I don't know about that.
They mixed it up. In the second half, we saw a lot of pick and goes, but in the first half, we did see them try to mix it up between bashing it up and moving it wide. England were quite happy to defend and basically have all their defenders inside the 15-metre line and leave that 15 wide to drift. And I don't think, whilst I could see that Wales were trying to get into that channel, I don't think they ever really managed to do it. And I think the rushing up of players like Slade cut them off.
Absolutely. And Wales spent a lot of the time, even when they managed to get into the 22 in the first half, which was not very often, they spent a lot of the time going for one out runners, like almost static runners, one out, where England could defend that all day. When they were a bit further out, like you say, England were defending inside the 15 on both wings. Johnny Mayer's got the pace to get back on Josh Adams, and Jack Noel would have had the pace on George North, and a couple of times North noticed that and cut back inside, and he made a couple of half decent breaks without really getting anywhere. But genuinely, I mean, I thought England controlled the first half. I thought tactically it was very good from England in the first half, and sort of carried on from where they'd been in previous games. Wales were a far better opposition than the French were a couple of weeks ago, and to be 10-3 up at half time would have been a great result for England. I mean, that passage of play, sorry Paul, that passage of play leading up to the try for Curry was really, really good by England, led from some great defence, and then Curry seizing the opportunity to see there's no guard or bodyguard in, and get through the gap.
No, absolutely. It was very good for him. So before that, it was just, as you say, a couple of penalties each way. I saw Wales also kicking to the corner, which was a bit of a surprise. I'd thought they'd taken the 3 earlier for that. And it wasn't really until just after that Curry try that England's tactics that we'd seen against Ireland and France, of being able to kick in behind started to happen. That Josh Adams and Liam Williams meant that the back line was just that option to kick in behind just wasn't there this weekend, and England had to come up with something different. And I think apart from containing Wales, I think going forwards they didn't come up with enough of a difference for me, which was my concern going into this weekend.
Yeah, and I felt that throughout the game, England kicked too early, and looking at the way that they set the game up, I don't remember Tuilagi having too many opportunities as a proper crash ball 12 to really go at Parks and Anscombe, like in between those shoulders. He didn't have that much, other than that run he had in the second half where he absolutely gassed Parks. He didn't have that much effect on the game, because I felt that Farrell, he kicked the ball very, very early throughout the phase play.
And I think that gassing of Parks was more a 13 break than a 12 break. And we saw,
Yeah.
that's where he's comfortable playing. That's where he's played more. I'm not sure he really is a 12 personally. He does a very good job there, but I think he's much more comfortable in that 13 channel where he gets a bit more time, a little bit more space, and he can use his pace as well as size to get through the gaps.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think actually from what I've seen so far, him and Slade have worked very well in that 12 and 13 channel. But today they didn't get the opportunity because the ball was kicked away far too much. They didn't get the opportunity to run.
The other person people have been talking a lot about, I guess the final thing from the first half has been Johnny May. Made that lovely England for a change actually spun wide. A lot of England's response to kicks is basically the capture to run back, whereas we saw Wales much more trying to change the point of attack and spin it across to find a gap in the kick chase. But the one time that Johnny May did that, got out wide, put the kick through, chased Williams down, and I thought showed a lot of calm to let him catch the ball and then tackle him into touch.
I think it was Hadley Parks, wasn't it? And then for a second, it looked like May was going to gas him. But that all came from some errors in England's handling. They were almost on their own line. A little kick through. Youngs picked it up. Noel did an excellent job in supporting Youngs and then pushed us out sort of 5 or 6 meters. Or pushed England out 5 or 6 meters to be able to get us in a position. And after a couple of phases, we end up in, May kicking through and chasing his own kick. And like you say, he showed great calm and great composure to then put him into touch sort of 5 or 6 meters out. Where we could have got into half time in an even better position.
Yeah, England managed to butcher that opportunity, didn't come away with any points when they should have done. 3-10. Second half sees England trying to kick behind more, as you say, not kicking well. And then Wales' big thing in that first half was 8 turnovers to 4 turnovers. When they did get attacked, they just knocked it on and turned it over, and which meant that it was comfortable for England to defend that. In the second half, they cut out those. England turned over the ball a lot more, ended up being 13-12 for turnovers. And we saw Wales start to just kick themselves back into this game, picking up the threes, playing sensible, close the gap, not kicking to the corners like they had tried in the first half and trying to go for the kill, but just trying to just bring themselves back into the game. And I thought that was that was the right way to go about the game. This was never going to be, with defences, tackling percentage for Wales was 85, for England for 94. You're not going to be scoring a lot of tries when everyone's tackling like that. You're better off taking your threes.
You are. I mean, points on the board is always going to build pressure for teams. I just felt England really, really lacked a plan B today. And when the plan A didn't come off tactically or executionally, they didn't know where to go, and Wales fully capitalised.
Yeah, we saw it from about 55 or so minutes onwards. England lost control of the game. We had Williams was claiming those high balls, whereas in the first half it was much more contestable. Balls getting knocked back, etc. But he was starting to claim those. Sinclair was starting to get pinged, and the penalty count was starting to rack up. It finished 3-9. And as I say, all 3 of those by Wales, England had a kick at goal. But the 9 by England let Wales get territory and kick goals. And majority of those were in the second half as England lost control of the game by giving up penalties and kicking poorly. And Wales going through the phases, holding onto the ball very well. I know you scoffed at the idea of Wales moving it wide, because in that second half they decided, let's stick it up the jumper, pick and go, wait for England to get offside, and then kick for territory. And when you've not got any space, it's that's a very good tactic.
Yeah, absolutely. But they started to dominate up front, and once England started losing the collisions, or Wales, let's turn this around, and I don't want to be seen as an English bias. Once Wales started dominating those collisions and getting the go forward, England didn't have an answer. And when you've got front foot ball, you're really working well.
Yep, and if you're going to be making 223 tackles, which was the tackle count, you're going to tire. You can't keep making that many tackles. You can't keep making them dominantly, and that's where Wales wore England down.
And when you don't have the ball, you're going to be in trouble. And when you and when you do have it and you're kicking it away, you're going to be even more trouble, because you're just putting yourself on the back foot straight away. And I think England have, when you look at the Ireland game and you look at the France game, when we kicked with purpose, and then we backed it up with France. I mean, France were an abomination on that day. Let's make no bones about that. Wales today were a completely different kettle of fish to what they've come up against in the previous two games. And having, whether it's an inability or whether it's a pig-headedness not to change things up, whether it's not to look to a plan B, I think was England's downfall today, as well as a thoroughly decent second half performance from Wales.
And one of the things that a friend of both JB says about Gareth about Dan Biggar is he plays up to how big the occasion is, and in some ways we've seen that by this entire Welsh team. Is against France, they didn't. In that first half, they were poor, and they did what they needed to in the second half. Against Italy, they played well enough to win, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're not really performing. They're not getting the performances." Today, they turned up and they performed, and they've stepped up to do what they need to do to win games.
Yeah, absolutely, and let's not forget that where the Italy performance in Rome was the best part of a reserve side, a twos side. It had a smattering of first team players, but it was a lot of backups and a lot of reserve players. And you go and you beat the opposition that's in front of you. You go to Rome, which it's not the easiest place to go, isn't it? It's not been fruitful for Italy a lot, but it's a good opportunity to go there and give people test match experience and come away with a win. Had they not won, it would have been an entirely different story. But I think it was, it's a great opportunity to blood some people, to give people some experience.
Yep, and they did the right thing there. Talk about the control. Yeah, 30 plus phases before Curry Hill went over. And at 16-13, I saw a tweet by a friend out of South Africa who said this has draw written all over it, and I'd had a very similar thing. I was thinking, we're just one penalty away. This is going to finish up 16-all, but Wales didn't let that happen. They came back under a scrum advantage. Dan Biggar knew what he was doing. Crossfield kick and some wonderful hands by Adams.
Penalty advantage, I think it was, from the scrum.
Yeah.
But it was a great try. And that's the difference, right? So you talked about Biggar and Anscombe earlier, right? The execution in that crossfield kick to get Adams the chance to get above Daly. Anscombe tried it earlier on in the game and didn't get the execution right. Biggar got it spot on. And there'll be a lot of people questioning Elliot Daly about Elliot Daly under the high ball. Absolutely not. That was, the person coming onto the ball is always going to be able to out jump the person standing still. And, the second little bit of hands and the wherewithal to get over the line was exceptional play from Adams. Great from Biggar. And it was always happening. You mentioned the draw there. As soon as Wales got into the lead, I just couldn't see it. We offered nothing in that second half, as from an England perspective. And as soon as Wales got into the lead, I knew that was it.
A few other little points in here. The Welsh line-out did cause them some problems in that first half. Once they fixed that again, England weren't. So once they fixed up their turnovers and their line out, Wales just controlled this game, and England couldn't do it. Players you want to call out from let's start with the Welsh side, the winning side?
Liam Williams, he was given man of the match by Jonathan Davis. I just want to mention Eddie Butler, Brian Moore and Jonathan Davis, arguably the most prehistoric commentary trio ever. It just goes to show, and with the greatest of respect to the BBC, I don't know who your commentary team were down under, Paul, but the Nick Mullins of this world and the Flatmans and the Ben Kays absolutely blow these guys out of the water. Liam Williams got man of the match. He was excellent. He was allowed to be excellent because England's kicking game was poor. I thought Josh Navidi had a very, very solid game. A couple of interceptions, a couple of turnovers. I thought he was solid for Wales. And Corey Hill, ironically, and I've mocked him many times, British and Irish Lion, Corey Hill, as he will always be known. One of the Wales Six or whatever it was that were called up in New Zealand. I thought he was really good, and he fronted up. For 70 minutes, he took everything England had to throw at him, and he made his tackles. He carried hard, and he got over for a try. So as far as Wales were concerned, they were my three big standouts.
Yeah, I mean, Hadley Parkes got through an awful lot of work in that 12 channel as well, 12 carries, and also 10 tackles as well. Now, made a few errors in there, but was asked to do an awful lot of work holding that defensive line together as well. So I said, apologise to sounding harsh, but I've been drinking, and you need to be after a Scotland performance. Well, I wasn't awake for that one, so I'll be catching up on that one later.
Do you know the result? Do you know the result of that?
I know the result, yes.
Well, good luck watching it, because Scotland were abysmal.
On the England side, the tackle stats are just crazy. You got Jack Nowell with 12. A winger making 12 tackles is just unheard of. Just go through the forwards though. Ben Moon 19, Jamie George 22, Carl Sinclair 18, Courtney Laws 15, Crewis 19, Wilson 20, Curry 26, Billy Vanapola 6. It's like, okay.
A bit of an outlier, but it just goes to show how much England did without the ball, or didn't do with the ball. It just, very frustrating as an England supporter.
Yep. And I understand that England have built their game plan, and we saw it also when England were down in Australia, that we talked about a lot of their game plan was around their defence, and that's fine to a certain degree, but I think they've just overcooked it now, and need to understand that you can't be doing that the whole time. A couple of comments, I think, from a Southern Hemisphere point of view, looking at a Northern Hemisphere game, is the forwards tend to stay fairly central, whereas if you watch a Southern Hemisphere game, you'll quite often see players like Dane Coles, Fafita, Kieran Reid has done in the past, but he now plays more central, playing out, basically pairing themselves up with the wingers, and being either just inside the winger or just outside the winger, and having one forward each out wide. So when you do spread it wide, you've got someone to clear the rucks. And to me, I didn't see any single-figured numbers in those wide channels. They kept, to me, a lot of the forwards on both sides kept fairly central, and we see much more of a pack mentality, and that's hence they call the pack, than we see from a Southern Hemisphere point of view, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I'm struggling to know what to say at the moment. I'm a little bit perplexed by England's general outlook on the whole game. The fact that their forwards, I don't think we've got the dynamism sometimes, as you mentioned, to go with the Kiwis, the Kieran Reeds and the Dane Coles. I don't think we've got the dynamism to be sort of hanging around in those loose areas out wide. I think, Billy, we carry hard centrally, and that's what Eddie Jones likes to say. The reason he doesn't pick people like Don Armand is the fact that he doesn't do enough heavy carrying in the middle, which is what he wants his forwards to do. So, I think it's horses for courses, isn't it? It's the way England play. And we've come up short against a very good Welsh side today.
Yep, no, absolutely. Congratulations to Wales. And on we go. Then they now have to go away to Scotland. And after what I hear about that Scotland performance, Wales be going there with plenty of confidence. And then they get to host Ireland at home, which will be a cracking game on the final round of the Six Nations. I'm sure that's one I'm going to choose to do post-match reaction for. So join me for those. Russ, why don't you let people know where they can get your wonderful podcast? I am a host of Maulover at Maulover Podcast on Twitter. I wasn't there this week. The boys did a great job, and they absolutely gave me pelters while I was away. But it was fun to listen to, I must admit, whilst I was delayed in an airport listening to those guys. So check them out. As I say, we are at Maulover Podcast. We record every Monday night, usually UK time, and available not long after. So if you like rugby, if you've heard of Alan Partridge, and you like a little bit of a general banter with a West Country accent, then check us out. And you'll have plenty of fun for the fact that it's Yakko Piper. So listen in for the next one. Yes. We'll have some Yakko Piper jokes. Absolutely. On the next show. I've been Paul, the guy behind Driving Maul. Don't forget to subscribe. It's up there. Down there is Patreon, how you can help me keep providing all this content for you for free. And over here are 2 videos that the YouTube artificial intelligence says you're going to absolutely adore. So click on those too.